Hi, this is Andre. I want to talk about the substitute function on the Echoplex Digital Pro. Substitute is accessed on the EDP via the insert button. It's one of 7 insert modes. So if you come down to the second parameter row from the bottom and then look at the insert column, you've got 7 different insert modes. The one we're going to talk about is substitute, but before we talk about that, we're going to talk about replace. If you've seen most of my videos, you definitely have heard me use replace because it's one of my favorite things. Substitute is like a sneaky version of replace, and here's what I mean by that. I'm just going to record one note, fill up the loop here. Okay, so replace will overwrite the loop content with whatever is being played when you're using the replace function. Right now I'm not playing anything, so I'm going to push the insert button. It's set to replace, which means that we're going to get silence. And it's a momentary function, which means it's active for as long as you press it down. If I play a note, I'm going to play my open first string. Then we get little snippets of sound. That's the replace function. Now let's record a new open string drone. Now we're going to switch the insert mode to substitute. And let's check out what happens. I'm going to start off just entering silence. Nothing happens. There it is. Now I'm going to play my open second string. Nothing happens. Oh, there it is. There it went. So substitute is like replace in that it will overwrite the loop content with whatever you're playing when you use the function. The difference is this. With replace, you hear the change immediately. With substitute, you don't hear the change until the next time the loop comes around. So you don't actually hear the function when you're using it. You hear it the next time the loop comes around. So I'm going to use the foot controller, just so that I can use both hands to play. This is a bread and butter bank. Pedal number 1 is record. Pedal number 2 is overdub. Pedal number 3 is multiply. I don't know if I'm going to use that. Pedal number 4 is set to do whatever the front panel insert function is. So pedal 4 duplicates the front panel insert button. I have that set to substitute, which means that this is going to access substitute as well. So I'm going to play over the top of this. You will see that when it lights up yellow on the front panel light for insert, that's when I'm doing substitute. You're not going to hear it when I'm using it. You're going to hear it on the next time through the loop. Like that. Now again, let's switch back to replace so we can compare. Now we're in replace, you're going to hear the differences immediately. So you can hear the texture change much more quickly there. Let's go back to substitute. Let's check this out in a slightly different way. Let me record a short cycle. I'm going to multiply this out 8 times. I'm going to record a 8-note natural minor scale. I will start on cycle 1. Okay, so what I'm going to do is make sure we're in substitute. We are in substitute. What I'm going to do now is use substitute on the last 4 cycles, cycles 5 through 8. There to the end. I'm going to record the same notes an octave higher, You're going to hear both versions of that as I play it. After I play it, when you hear the loop come back, you're only going to hear the higher version that I play. So here we go. So when you're using the substitute function, you can hear your live input, and you can also hear the material in the loop that you're in the process of overwriting. Again, to compare, let's switch back to replace. So there, it immediately covered it up. Let's go back to substitute. So each time it comes through, I'm going to do a different variation on those notes. So there you heard it in octaves. Now you just hear the last version I did. So each time I'm pressing substitute, you're hearing two layers, but the next time it comes through, you're just hearing one. So like I say, substitute is kind of a more subtle version of replace. Because you're not hearing the change as you apply it, then it takes a little longer for it to make itself known, I guess you could say. Because you're not actually hearing the function as you're applying it, it doesn't change the loop as quickly or as dramatically or as inobvious of a way. Let's check out the infamous, I'm kidding, it's a great function, the infamous 8th quantized replace technique. Let's start with replace. Gonna start with a drone, because I'm all about drones tonight. But hey, at least I'm using a different open string now. Okay, so 8th quantized replace. So again, as soon as the replace function kicks in, you can hear it. Now, let's totally get rid of that. Overdub another patented open string drone. Has anyone ever patented an open string drone? All right, I'm switching to substitute. We're going to do the same thing. And let's hear how that changes the development of the stuff. And to contrast, let's go back to replace. And keep doing that. So replace makes itself known much more immediately, and obviously substitute takes a while to fully reveal itself. If you want to be really geeky and absurdly, unnecessarily technical, which I always do, then you could say that substitute is like doing an overdub with feedback at 0. What the hell does that mean? Well, let's talk about that. Here's yet another open string drone, but I'm going to really push my horizons and use yet another open string that I haven't droned on yet today. Okay, so feedback, as we've talked about, has to do with how many repetitions of a loop you're going to get. The classic way of using feedback is you bring it down and gradually the loop fades out. etc., etc. And then if you want to freeze the loop, you bring feedback back up. So let me reestablish my soon-to-be patented open string drone. Now what you can also do is use feedback to just bring down level in part of a loop, this kind of idea. So we're just punching a hole in the loop, basically, using the feedback control. So the moments in the loop where it's completely silent are where feedback was at 0. So if you want to think of it in a certain way, substitute can be thought of as doing two things at once. It starts overdubbing, and it also sets feedback to 0. Let's look at what happens if I do an actual overdub with feedback at 0. I'm just going to play. You're only going to hear one repetition of everything I play, because that's what happens when feedback is all the way down. You only get the one repetition. I'm leaving overdub open, but you're only hearing one repetition, again, because feedback is all the way down. So effectively, you can think of substitute as putting you into that state in a momentary sense for however long you hold down the insert button or the insert pedal if you're using a foot controller. So I'm going back to my exclusive patented open string drone, switching back to substitute. And every time I hold down the button, we're effectively overdubbing with feedback at 0. Quantize is still on, which is okay, but I'm going to turn it off. So you could think of it as a way of bringing feedback down to 0, turning on overdub, then turning off overdub and immediately bringing feedback back up to 100%, all within the space of a couple of momentary button presses. Uh-oh, we've modulated to A. That kind of idea. So you would think that for someone like myself who loves the replace function as much as I do and uses it as much as I can, one would think that I would be really into the substitute function as well. For whatever reason, I'm not. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's hard to feel the effect when you're doing it. You know, if I'm setting up something like that, switch back to replace, come on, there's replace. If I'm trying to do like an unquantized rhythmic kind of thing, you know, I can feel, not just hear, but feel when the replace effect is kicking in. So it's, you know, I've gotten used to that kind of tactile feedback. If I switch to substitute, it's a lot harder for me to do that kind of thing with precision because I can't feel the effect as I'm doing it. Let's see what happens. It's a lot harder for me to really kind of know what's going on because I'm not actually hearing and feeling the effect of the function change until I hear the next repetition of the loop, whereas with replace, it's immediate. It's not fundamentally better or worse. Your mileage may very much vary. And for stuff that is maybe meant to be more subtle or kind of sneak its way in, substitute may very well be a better alternative for you. Also, part of it is just laziness on my part. I use replace so much and I've kind of developed a relationship with that function, and I just haven't really spent the time to do that with substitute, but that's my own fault. And honestly, part of the reason for doing these videos in the first place is to force myself out of my comfort zone and try and revisit or newly investigate functions that I maybe haven't given as much attention as I should. So hopefully this will be a kick in the pants for me to do just that. So that's a crash course on Substitute, which is an insert mode on the Echoplex Digital Pro. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will talk to you guys soon.